Hey guys, in case you have not heard, I am doing a 30-hour live stream right now over at twitch.tv/thecompletionist for a little event that I've been calling Indie Land. For the next 30 hours, it's nothing but indie games, indie devs, celebrities, challenges, YouTubers, streamers, all in an attempt to raise money in honor of my mom and research and treatment for dementia. So after you're done watching this video, come join us over on twitch.tv/thecompletionist from now until Sunday. See you guys there. When a game takes 10 years to come out, it's easy for the conversation to pivot around whether or not it was worth the wait. But when it comes to Owlboy, the indie platform adventure game that hit the PC in 2016 and then made its way to the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in 2018, the relatively small amounts of hype and the overwhelmingly solid reaction to the game makes that conversation almost besides the point. As an indie game, Owlboy gets to fly free of the weight of some of those expectations and focus instead on delivering a solid retro adventure built around flight. We'll find out if it succeeds at capturing mankind's dream of living amongst the birds when I complete Owlboy. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. When I was a kid, I always dreamed about flying, but planes didn't just capture the magic, and skydiving was a little too scary for me. So I turned to video games, and now I finally get to live out my dream of being a real-life Owlboy, turning my head all the way around and everything. I'm gonna keep working on it. You watch the video. Yes! Owlboy is the latest in a string of retro indie games that attempt to innovate while simultaneously indulging in sweet sentimentality for simpler days gone by. This is the sort of thing that there's always going to be a demand for, but it says a lot when a developer goes out of their way to really get it right. D-Pad Studios started development on Owlboy back in good old 2007, when the phrase "don't tase me bro" was the height of comedy, and we didn't yet know how sad something with a silly name like Twitter could make us. It was immediately apparent that Owlboy was going to be, at the very least, a charming throwback with a unique art style, but D-Pad Studios wisely made sure to put just as much energy into the gameplay, even going back to the drawing board a couple of times so as to not let fans down. It's always good when creators take as much time as it takes to get something right, though 10 years is definitely a long-ass time. Whew! Yikes. Ugh, why am I showing this on the internet? But when Owlboy finally came out on PCs in 2016, it raked in the positive reviews, earning raves as a fun, wildly charming throwback adventure. It didn't hit consoles until 2018, which is kind of a shame, seeing how it's so indebted to old school console games. But it's here now, including the PS4 version, which is the one that I'll be completing today, so stop complaining, Brett! I didn't even say anything! Now, Owlboy's not a huge game by any means, but some of the bosses are supposedly pretty hard, and some of its collectibles are hidden in devious places. That ain't no problem for me though, cause the only thing I like more than hard bosses is searching bushes for stray coins. Not just in games either. Bushes are nature's slot machines, you guys. The first thing I'll be doing to complete Owlboy is, you guessed it, playing through the story all the way to the end. Imagine that. Owlboy is a pretty story-driven game with lots of attention paid to its world, so I'm gonna soak it all in as I soar my way to greatness. Next up is the game's major collectible, the Buccaneer coins, which can be used to unlock upgrades at Buccaneer's shop. There are thousands of coins scattered around the floating islands of Owlboy's world, and I'm gonna get them all because I worked really hard this year and I deserve a shopping spree, girl. A lot of those coins are found on your path through the story, but plenty of them them are hidden away in caves, treasure chests, or floating rings. And all of them shall feel the grasp of my fearsome talons. And finally, I'll be getting all of the rest of the game's collectibles, which means finding some golden discs that open up a hidden area, and rescuing the 3 stranded Bogwin brothers in order to unlock a supremely frustrating minigame.
Wait, did you say Baldwin brothers? Like Steven?
What? No! This also means getting the few PlayStation trophies that aren't directly related to playing through the game, which I'm sure will be a piece of cake, assuming that none of them require me to do some sort of mundane activity upwards of 1,000 times. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. I said it'll be fine, so calm down, Brett.
Hey man, I don't know what you're talking about. Just please don't touch me.
While Owlboy certainly owes some debt to the games of the past, it never lets its blatant nostalgia hamper its ambitions, tying its retro aesthetics to an expansive and imaginative story, creating a world that feels fresh and exciting, but also warm and comforting, like a bowl of soup. Owlboy centers on Otis, the titular Owlboy, who is indeed both an owl and a boy. He's also a mute, which causes him to feel like an outcast in the town of Veli, where he lives in a world made up of floating islands in the sky. But one day, Veli is attacked by pirates on a mission to collect 3 ancient owl relics, and it's up to Otis and his nerdy human friend Getty to venture off on a quest to stop the pirates, uncover the secrets of the ancient owl society, and, you know, find his confidence and stuff. The story in Owlboy is actually super well done, with an emphasis on character and emotion that you wouldn't necessarily expect from this type of game. It's not afraid to pause to show how the events of the story affect Otis, Getty, and even the minor characters that occupy the city of Veli. I even let out an occasional "aww," especially at the game's central friendship. Once it gets deeper into the mythology of the world and the history of the owls, things get a little more vague, and it feels like there's some stuff they didn't quite manage to squeeze in there. For example, the game briefly explores concepts of determinism and free will, and it would have been cool to see more of that. But then, it also has to be a rollicking adventure story, and it ends up striking a pretty decent balance. From a game called Owlboy, I'm happy to get even just a little dash of philosophical tomfoolery. The story has real stakes though, and those stakes aren't at all diminished by its off-kilter sense of humor. For a game with no voice cast or cutscenes, Owlboy mines some actual laughs from some of its dialogue, especially when the Bogwin brothers are around.
Okay, you're definitely saying Baldwin brothers. Like Daniel Baldwin?
Why would I be talking about Daniel Baldwin? No, they're a crew of 4 bizarre little penguin dudes that are clearly terrified of their boss, the shopkeeper Buccanary, and they're delightful. I feel bad for them, but if laughing at their antics means I'm complicit in their oppression at the hands of a domineering shopkeeper, then I'm guilty as hell. Even though the humor mostly lands, it's pretty intermittent, which gives the emotional scenes and moments of glorious 2D spectacle some time to breathe. Overall, the game feels more cinematic and involving than you'd think a 2D game like this even could. The art style is simple but endlessly charming, and the details that we do get are always telling. The characters have personality, even just at a glance. That's less true of the locations, especially the dungeons, which usually feel like standard video game bad guy layers, with themes like jungle, or lava, or ancient owl temple. The open areas are mostly grassy and idyllic, but everything's rendered in that same charmingly rustic art style, so it's never boring to look at. The music by composer Jonathan Gear is similarly traditional, but always sweeping and evocative. When you're flying around, it makes you go, hell yeah, I'm flying around. When you're in a dungeon, the music says, oh damn son, you're in a dungeon. And when pirates are attacking, it just screams, yo, look out, dude, those are pirates! So if you're looking for a solid, classic feeling game soundtrack, Owlboy's got it. The user interface also stays out of the player's way, with minimal menus and very little to keep track of other than health and a pretty quick cooldown bar for your shotgun blast. It lets the focus be on the majesty of the world's floating islands, rather than a million little goddamn dials and doodads. Now, Owlboy did have some performance issues when it first came out, but some of those issues were patched, and I mostly got through it just fine. I never got poor Otis stuck in a wall or anything, which is good, because he has enough to worry about. Pirates, man. Always causing trouble. Overall, Owlboy is like the best possible version of the phrase, play the hits, at least when it comes to the aesthetics. It's got a classic retro feel that's still lush and gorgeous, with a story that sticks to a classic adventure template with a couple of solid twists, and music that feels custom made for the activity of soaring through the clouds. In fact, everything about Owlboy is so comforting and pleasant. I'm thinking that I might get a pet owl. Never mind. Though it never really transcends its genre, Owlboy's gameplay is simple, confident, and surprisingly varied for a 2D adventure game of this sort, with a main storyline that's never a chore to complete, even if the same can't be said about the collectibles. Other than flying, the main mechanic of this game is the one that sounds deceptively simple, picking up stuff and putting down stuff. Otis also has a dash and a spin attack, but almost everything in the game is built around the core idea of picking stuff up and putting stuff down. So I thought I'd give it a try.
Picking stuff up, putting stuff down, picking stuff up, putting stuff down, picking stuff up, putting stuff down, picking stuff up, putting stuff down. Hey, this is a lot of fun.
That central idea makes its way into combat, puzzles, and exploration as I battle through Owlboy's weird floaty landscape. The levels do a solid job of introducing new gameplay ideas and mechanics as they go, and each dungeon has at least one enemy specific to that zone that will become the bane of your existence for a little bit, like those damn monkeys in the lava level. Those areas have a classic dungeon feel to them, and while I would like to have seen the explorative vibe of the open areas integrated into the dungeons a little bit more, they're still fun, even when they start to feel a bit like an endless maze of chambers and hallways. Traversing these malicious mazes, though, requires the help of your friends, including your best friend Getty and a couple of pirate pals you pick up along the way. I bring them up because they're essentially what passes for weapons in this game. Each of your friends comes equipped with a different kind of blast you can use when you carry them around. And if you thought picking stuff up and putting stuff down was fun, wait until you try it with people.
Pull down. Pull up. Pull down.
Oh, hey, George. I was just working on the top 10 that you wanted me to finish up
Picking
before I
people
went
up,
back to
putting people
traveling
down.
again.
Picking people up, putting people down.
Okay, man.
Picking
You need
people up.
something?
Putting people down. Picking people up.
Okay.
Putting people down.
Okay. I guess.
Put them down.
Pick
them up.
Can I?
Gotta pick them down.
Can I get back to work at some point?
Gotta pick them up.
I mean, all right.
Gotta put them down.
Whatever works, I guess.
Don't worry about Bradley. He's fine. I put him down after like 20 minutes. Bradley wasn't nearly as helpful as the three sidekicks in Owlboy though, as he never once deployed Getty's standard blaster attack, Alphonse's short-ranged but powerful musket blast, or Twig's webbing attacks, which can pull enemies towards you or zip you across rooms. The game requires you to switch frequently between your compatriots, either to solve specific puzzles or to defeat certain enemies. Switching is as easy as the press of a button, and controls throughout are actually pretty simple, which is great for a game like this. Owlboy is a game of simple pleasures, but that doesn't mean it's above pissing you off every now and then. Some of the boss fights are wild, and they don't feel unfair or anything. It can be a little frustrating to fight the same lava beast a bunch of times, but eventually, the patterns become clear. You figure out which of your highly portable friends is the most effective for the situation, and it all falls into place. Now, the only time it really feels like it's ever the game's fault is when enemies or obstacles blend into the backgrounds due to the uniform art style. Keep thinking I saw hallways that weren't actually there. And while everything in Owlboy is definitely pretty to look at, there are some points where things get a little cluttered, and the lack of visual clarity makes certain combat encounters feel like a chore. The puzzles don't pose anywhere near as much of a challenge though, with the solution pretty much always involving, you guessed it, picking people up, putting people down.
People up, putting people down. Picking people up, putting people down. Picking people up.
Don't you dare.
Picking people up, putting people down. Picking people up.
Frasier wasn't down for the Owlboy experience, but that's fine, cause all of Otis's pals are super cool with hanging out on switches so Otis can open doors. The puzzles don't get too much more complicated than that though, and are always just about finding the best way to move through the dungeon with the help of your best buds. The game saves its trickiness for hiding the collectibles, with a plethora of fake walls and secret rooms, meaning that Otis has to fly into a bunch of walls like a dummy if he wants to find everything. Some of those spots are real easy to miss, and while it's awesome that the game gives you a chart to show you how many coins you have left in each region, it can be a bummer when it says you haven't found 8 coins and you've definitely looked everywhere. I played through the story without stressing out about getting every coin on the first pass, but I think it might actually be smarter to get them as you go, checking your chart along the way. Doing cleanup after the last boss meant basically replaying all of the dungeons a second time, but fortunately the entire world is accessible all the way through, meaning you can't miss anything permanently. The 3 golden discs and the 3 missing Bogwin brothers didn't pose as much of a challenge as those coins, but finding the brothers does unlock a minigame with hypersensitive controls that is pretty dang hard and has to be beaten in order to grab the last coins. Thanks a bunch, Bogwin brothers.
I keep hearing Baldwin brothers. Is one of them Billy? He's my favorite.
Billy? Really? That's weird. Now that I've grabbed all that loot, the only thing to do is pick up the rest of those beautiful trophies, which shouldn't be too much of a hassle. There are only a couple that are missable, but they're fortunately near the beginning of the game, meaning that I was able to just start a new file and get them in 10 minutes or less. The only one that made me roll my eyes a bit is a trophy titled Oops, which requires you to hit your best bud Getty with a spin attack 1,000 times. Now, it's not hard, it's just tedious. And for a game that's all about the power of friendship, it honestly made me feel a little bad about beating up this poor nerd, who never did anything but follow his best owl friend into an incredibly dangerous adventure. That brave little nerd deserves better. But lopsided friendships aside, Owlboy offers a well-rounded 2D gaming experience that is challenging without being infuriating, thoughtful without being tedious, and familiar without being derivative. All thanks to the life-changing magic of picking stuff up, putting stuff down. Ah, wait, stop! No, what are you guys doing? Get off me! No!
Guys, this was just a joke. That was only kidding. Guys, it's okay. I'm sorry. Hey, it's a bit. Just a bit. Remember that? It's just a bit. Guys, I'm sorry. Guys, don't let me in here. No, guys, no! Fuck.
Owlboy doesn't have an abundance of unlockables, but there's just enough to make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled for collectibles along the way. With every few hundred coins, Buccaneer's shop gives you a new upgrade, though they're mostly either cosmetic hats or extensions to your health bar. Some of them increase the range of your weapons, but there's nothing that's going to revolutionize the way you play the game until you get every single coin, which is when you unlock a costume that makes you invincible when you dash. It's actually pretty freaking cool, but by the time you get it, it's literally only helpful for the last boss, if that. It's nice that there is some sort of reward for getting every coin, but it doesn't feel worth the amount of backtracking you'd have to do if you didn't find them all on your first time around. Owlboy doesn't offer any 100% bonuses, but at least offers you a little something for each collection you complete. Coins get you the aforementioned outfit, rescuing all the Bogwins gets you that terrible minigame where you're launched out of a cannon, and finding all 3 gold discs and then mounting them on 3 statues gets you, wait a minute, Brett, I mentioned the Bogwin brothers and you didn't say anything.
Yeah, because I'm out of Baldwin brothers.
What about Alec?
Who?
Never mind. Like I was saying, getting the 3 gold discs and then placing them on 3 pedestals found throughout the world gets you access to the Eternal Sanctuary. What is the Eternal Sanctuary, you may ask? Great question. It ends up being an ancient owl temple holding a bunch of holograms who give speeches that deepen and expand on the lore. And that's it. It's nothing major, but if you were intrigued by the story and the world of Owlboy, it's nice to get those few extra tidbits. Playing through Owlboy offered a few moments of frustration, but overall it wasn't too taxing, at least when I was playing through the story, that is. Doubling back to find all of the coins wasn't a ton of fun, but it also didn't break my brain. While I completed Owlboy, there were 30 deaths, 24 trophies unlocked, 2,800 coins collected, 11 hours of total playtime, and an office full of good friends who I promise never to pick up again if they just come let me out of this dark, scary room, please. Anyone? Well, even if I'm stuck in this closet forever, at least I got to play Owlboy, which captures all of the fun of an old school Nintendo game with a few twists of its own, and a cool, emotionally driven story to boot. And while I'm still totally not sure that every little coin is worth collecting, the story is worth seeing through to the very end.
So, there you have it. While I may have driven away all of my friends and co-workers with lessons I've learned from Owlboy, I still had a great time with it. The gameplay is incredibly solid, and the main story compelled me to find out what happens next, even if I was a little bummed out by some of the more tedious collecting. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it!
So that's all time we have for today, guys. So please, as always, let me know about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Don't forget that today is Indie Land happening for the next 30 hours over at twitch.tv/thecompletionist. If you liked today's episode, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and click or tap the screen right now to see last week's video. Guys, I've been the Completionist, and hopefully I'll see you soon if I can get out of here. Siri, call Amanda Flagg.
Did you want me to call Bob Mackey?
No, don't call Bob Mackey. I don't even have Bob Mackey in my phone. Call Amanda Flagg.
Calling Bob Mackey.